Hello, friend. If you're watching this video, it's because someone who cares about you, or if you don't have one of those, the YouTube algorithm, has concluded that your life would be substantially improved by a 13-episode dose of ODDTAXI. They are correct, and I would love to elaborate on that, but I kinda need you to trust me on this, even if you don't like furry stuff or cartoons or anime or whatever, because any detail I could tell you about what you're missing in this show will spoil some of its magic for you. ODDTAXI is a twisty, puzzle-boxy mystery with character-driven machinations every bit as complex and tightly tuned as those of Knives Out, combined with the impeccably paced, subtextually layered, infectiously rhythmic dialogue of a Tarantino or Coen Brothers movie. Only it scales up that puzzle box to the size of a city rather than a mansion, and maintains that level of quality for a full 4.5-hour, 13-episode runtime, using the medium of animation itself as the foundation of its mysteries. And the final payoff of those mysteries is at once perfectly satisfying in every way the show leads you to hope it will be, and a total left-field surprise. You probably think I'm being hyperbolic, but I assure you I am not. Nor am I when I tell you that its low-key, unassuming little Newgrounds vibe of an intro is one of the smartest anime openings ever made. I will stake my reputation on that claim, and my YouTube stats, since I put writing about the equally masterful yet far more clickable Chainsaw Man manga on hold to do this. This is a Cruel Angel's Thesis, Cowboy Bebop's tank-tier legend of an opening. A minimalist masterpiece of cleverly hidden subtext and perfectly considered framing, which, come to think of it, could also describe the show itself. But like the show itself, I can't really demonstrate why this OP is so good without taking something away from your experience of it. So I need to ask you for 3 favors now. 1, go watch ODDTAXI immediately if you haven't already. 2, once that binge watch has flown by, which will take mere minutes, come back and watch this to the end. Then, 3, because YouTube really doesn't like it when I do this early spoiler warning thing or talk about obscure anime in general, if I manage to blow your mind with some part of this video, please hit the like button to let me know and send it to at least one friend who you know likes anime and could do with some ODDTAXI in their life. Or you could send it to a friend who hates anime, because frankly, even if you're the kind of elite cinema connoisseur who only partakes in Criterion picks and the finest of prestige television dramas, ODDTAXI's gonna do things for and to ya. Forget the anime awards. This show deserves to be snubbed by the Emmys. Okay, now that I have truly pushed ODDTAXI as hard as I possibly can without breaking part of it, it's time to dive into those spoilers and that opening. A good mystery is like a good magic trick, in that both aim to show you one thing while making you believe it's another. And just like great magicians, the mark of a great mystery smith is their willingness to lay their cards on the table and let you examine them thoroughly before they proceed to fool you completely anyway. With this OP, ODDTAXI is tipping its hand to the audience at the start of every episode, offering obvious clues as to the nature of its characters, while more subtle ones all but give away its deepest mysteries. In fact, one of the questions that the show pushes to its forefront, a retrospectively obvious red herring, is answered quite plainly in the opening's very first sequence, which sees Adokawa enjoying a juice box at the end of a long night in his favorite parkside parking spot, only for a cute little black cat to wander up and interrupt him. He goes to pet it, and it walks up curiously before running away, then screams in time with the music after he gets in his cab to drive off, which is very clearly a metaphor for the cat girl who disappeared into the darkness of Tokyo after last being seen taking one of his cabs. Or so the show is happy to let you think, as that metaphorical misinterpretation allows it to hide in plain sight this entirely literal depiction of how Adokawa met the cat that lives in his closet. We spend the whole show ominously staring into that blackened gap in the door, wondering what might be inside it, yet Here, and even more plainly 57 seconds in, right before that closet door turns into Adokawa's head, the opening lays it out plain as day. It's a black cat. No missing girls or money or guns in there, just a cat. But of course, because you then see the closet turn into a walrus head, you're inclined to dismiss that more literal reading of the scene. Maybe it represents Adokawa's locked-away memories of the missing girl, or his guilt over what he did to her, you're invited to muse like Goriki and Shirakawa do as they poke at our hero's head, missing the very obvious truth that sometimes a cat's just a cat and a man's just a walrus. A capoeira kick transition brings us from there to another shot that says as much, a decidedly mundane little skit where Adokawa stubbornly stretches his stubby arms out the window to ineffectually paw at some bird poop, which is probably my favorite bit of animation in the whole OP. It's just so endearingly, pathetically human. Though I guess that descriptor applies to most of the character shots, even the less grounded ones. Like, I don't even think I have to explain Taichi Kabasawa's. It's a flawless depiction of how sporadic social media attention affects the people who want it, and what often happens when we start getting it all the time. Likewise, Kakitani's character portrait also serves as a broad and straightforward portrait of the inherent myopic absurdity of endlessly swiping right in a quest for love. Additional meaning is implied in that shot through the multi-armed Kakitani's transitional connection to the flurry of punches thrown by the show's other monkey character, Dobu, who, rolling back a little further, we see is taking out his frustrations over falling behind his former kohai and present rival, Yano. He and Kakitani are both using their sandbag and phone, respectively, as outlets for their feelings of inadequacy over having failed to find the success and happiness that they've spent their lives chasing through this city. Basically, every character in this opening is chasing someone or something, or cheering on others as they chase their dreams, save for Adokawa himself, who's content to just sit in his cab enjoying the city sights and night air. Bringing it back to Yano for a second, though, his introduction is one of the best considered bits of the whole OP, as we see the incessantly rapping Yakuza thug and his scooter slide into frame in perfect time with the first beat and bars of DJ Punpi's hip-hop section of the theme song, which actually isn't the only way that the OP uses external context to tell us more about the characters than the visuals alone can show. For instance, our introduction to the Daimon brothers is a bit weird in that their little personality-packed bounce animations that show how one of them's a bit goofy and the other's overly serious are happening atop the heads of the struggling manzai comedy act and Adokawa's favorite radio hosts, Homo sapiens. Or at least it seems strange until you realize that the Daimons are played by the Miki Manzai comedy duo, and that their antics in the show make for a better manzai routine than basically anything Homo sapiens puts on. On that note, it's also quite telling, in a quite depressing way, how much the more famous and successful Baba has to stoop down in order to stay on his partner Kensuke's level. Rounding out the more on-the-nose symbolism in the OP, Tanaka's segment shows us how he's trapped in a gamer mindset, chasing meaningless prizes that represent status as they randomly drop onto him, simply taking what life throws at him instead of taking charge of his life. Though one of those prizes is a little more meaningful than the others and very much worth paying attention to. That pen appears in every episode of the show. It's also on one of the billboards behind Dobu and Yano, and it plays into a podcast-style audio drama that was released alongside the series on YouTube. It is essential listening, or at least essential wiki transcript reading, for any hardcore ODDTAXI fan. Oh, and speaking of cool supplementary material, on the last billboard behind Dobu and Yano, after Adokawa's done driving himself between the two of them, we find the trapper-hatted bear that is DJ Punpi's official ODDTAXI persona, as seen in the full music video version of this opening. And with that one shot, the music video low-key gave away the series' biggest, most stylish twist. This is quite clearly how Adokawa sees humans in his rearview mirror. But again, very few people thought about it that way when the video released back in April, because musicians becoming anime characters is incredibly common in anisong promo videos. It's ODDTAXI's acute awareness of conventions like this that are so often creative afterthoughts and thus can serve as blind spots for its audience that allows it to hide dead giveaways for some of its craziest twists in plain sight. For example, it's not unusual to see vaguely awkward credit placement in anime openings that cuts characters' bodies or faces off in weird ways. Sometimes there's just too much text that's gotta be crammed into one shot. But then, when you consider that in the context of the rest of this opening, where a careful effort has clearly been made to make the text of every other title fit aesthetically around the drawings and into the shot composition, and where, when there really is just too much on screen at once, we're always given a second to appreciate the image behind that text before or after it appears, this shot starts to seem pretty sus. Stranger still, this credit placement obscures the face of Mystery Kiss's central member, Rui. As the only unmasked singer in the group, you'd expect her to hog the spotlight created by the text, but instead she steps quickly into and out of it, kind of reflecting what happens to her career at the show's conclusion. Meanwhile, the mask of Yuki Mitsuya is always in full view in the very first shot after the title card. The opening is all but screaming at you to pay attention to her. And if you look at that shot of the missing girl the way that Adokawa would, it's immediately clear why. Judging by her cheek tufts, Yuki's the only character in this opening who fits that silhouette. The answer to the anime's central mystery is right there, where only our hero can see it, all foreshadowed through the simple, seemingly thoughtless placement of some text. I hope you're seeing why I think this opening is genius now. And that's still not the complete picture. See, besides Adokawa, that would make Yuki the only character who appears in this opening more than once, which would be a big inconsistency. Except that obviously she's not, because that's not actually Yuki dancing with Mystery Kiss, but rather Sakura Wadagaki, who murdered her to take her place and is now poised to break out as a star now that Rui's been arrested for her crime. With but one loose, or should I say odd, end still left to be tied up. Before I can finish talking about this opening and the final answer it has to give, I've got to talk a bit about that ending. Well, okay, I don't really gotta, but I'll likely only get this one ODDTAXI video, so I'm making it count. Despite only being given a handful of lines to explain what she did and why she did it, Wadagaki is one of my favorite anime villains ever. And it's the series' tight, interconnected, thematically consistent writing that makes her so good. In very little time, she's implied to combine basically all of the series' villains' worst traits. She's ruthlessly self-serving, like Dobu and Yano, compulsively narcissistic, like Kabasawa. She uses her cuteness to disarm and take advantage of people, like Shiho did to Kakitani, and like Tanaka, she's driven to violently pursue any lucky opportunity that comes her way, even telling her mom that she found Adokawa's taxi the same way that Tanaka did. In other words, she encapsulates every existential threat to the social ecosystem that we've spent the last 13 episodes exploring, the interconnected world that this opening so artfully presents. She's someone who puts her own needs and status over her friends, her community, and worse than even the Yakuza, the sanctity of human life itself. Her motivations are understandable, sympathetic even. Her doting, beleaguered mom had big dreams that she never got to fulfill, so for both of their sake, her daughter will do everything she can, everything she needs to do, in order to make her dreams come true. But as Tanaka learned rather traumatically, past tragedies are never a license to inflict future ones on others, and I can think of no greater tragedy than to see Adokawa, who we've spent this whole series getting to know and watching as he slowly works his way towards self-actualization, taken away from us and from Goriki and Shirakawa right when he's finally found it, especially for such selfish reasons. But at the same time, as we've seen time and again in the tragic backstories and current events of characters throughout this series, that is often just how it be on this bitch of a normal human 2020 Earth. Random acts of greed and thoughtlessness ruining or even ending lives in an instant, and this may just be where Adokawa's luck has run out. Or maybe he told the police about Wadagaki in time. Maybe brought some of his friends in to help bust her off camera. Maybe his strong sense of community and justice will trump her evil in the end. The last episode certainly provides a lot of potential narrative outs from this situation, but all that's left ambiguous so that we can stare up at the ceiling, pondering which of these two forces will win in the end, both in Adokawa's world and our own, which is Adokawa's world, of course. I think the OP's final shots hold some hope for him and us, though. Adokawa sits watching the sunset from a car that has either been flipped in post or maybe he's just chilling in the passenger seat. Either way, water rushes in to fill the screen and end the scene, and we see a human child Adokawa being dumped into it. The trigger for both the beginning and end of his weird mental condition that turns all the people around him into furries. And interestingly, the final shot after that is the only time in this OP where we see Adokawa's cab without any anthropomorphic animals in or around it. In other words, this could take place after he recovers, right when Wadagaki plans to attack him. And at this very interesting shot's conclusion, after his cab has rolled and bumped to a stop in perfect time with the final guitar chord and the music has faded away, the streetlight turns green, implying that Adokawa will keep moving forward in life. Or maybe I'm reading too much into it, and that's just a stylish way of capping off the OP for a show about a taxi cab. Maybe his brake light's going out while the lights of the city and stars above him shine on all around him gives this shot a much darker meaning. One thing is certain, though, that I am deeply, obsessively invested in the fate of this ex-walrus and actively seeking any justification I can find to believe he will be okay. At the very least, I know I'm better off in general and more artistically enriched just for having experienced his story, though, and now you are too. And all that I've analyzed is still just the tip of the iceberg of hidden details in this show, so you'll have a good time rewatching it as you tie your friends down, tape their eyes open, and help start recruiting for this cult. Oh yeah, you're in a cult now. Maybe I should have led with that. I'm Geoff Thew, professional shitbag, signing out from my mother's basement.